But the
Holy
Templar
shit.
only has one, Vampire's Bane, and then don't forget your trap, the soul trap, more soul splitting or consuming.
Trap. Consuming.
Yeah, that will
It's
work.
gotta be consuming.
I use soul
That's right,
splitting.
for soul splitting. Does soul splitting work?
Yes.
It's
a
considered.
dart.
It's considered an AOE dot, though. I thought
I'll have to look.
because it applies to multiple targets.
That's true.
I would check it. The only thing I would think is if it worked and you had the AOE, you know, the multiple ads there, it might be that you apply it to a couple, and then when you hit light attack, it hits a different one. Zins goes to them, and you can't control it. But I don't know if it works or not. You just throw it on the dummy, see if it turns green.
See, that's the thing, though. You can't track Zens. Any
Yeah, you
light
can't
attack
track your stacks.
will show the green dot of Zens because it's just the Zens proc. It doesn't actually show you your percentage based. It's all very hit or miss.
Yeah, it doesn't show the 5, but I think it does show if you just use the one skill and you're just testing the skill to see if it works. Because I think when the green's there, it means that Zen's applied.
No, the green's
Yeah,
there to show that there's
you
a
have the
touch
mark.
of Zens on it.
Yeah,
It's not
they're
that-
marked with your Zen.
Yeah, so like you have to
Oh.
have it green to show that Zens is active, and then it counts your dots for the percentage based.
Where the heck's a dummy? Let's see this.
Yeah, all the yes, there's several dummies. 2 are over that way. Yep, just keep running that way, by the barricade. So
Shoot.
the instant you light
Yeah, you're
attack,
right.
dots. Yep,
Because I don't have a dot on them and it's still green.
yep. That's just to show you that it is a touch of Zens.
A little touch of Zans right there.
A little touch of Zens. Cable said she was coming. Did she accept? Did we see her?
Not yet.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if they did it like Cioria, where they had the little thing on the bar and they could give you the number?
Oh,
stacks,
I
I
would
mean-
love that.
Come on.
They could have done this at better.
Well, that's a good thing to talk about because I just assumed it wouldn't, but that would be nice to figure out. I guess I could just remorph it. It wouldn't really matter. Okay, I guess this is what's coming. Couch said he'll be a little bit late. Joe and Taco probably be late. Naya's just watching stream.
Or listening, she has to wreck a whole entire yard. Feels bad, man.
So, I have things to talk about, but like I don't have a specific order. I've got quiet you. I've got gear, we've got division of burst heals, hots, buffs and debuffs, and class specific skills.
Oh yeah.
Question? Anywhere to start? What do you want to do, guys?
Start where you want to start.
So,
Question,
yeah.
and let's look at the people in here. Okay, mostly experienced people, so good. This may help. So with a new patch coming up, what kind of changes might we have to make? What becomes relevant? What becomes irrelevant?
I am not talking about next patch because it's literally been the first week and it's gonna change 4 more times.
Yeah.
I'm not even worried about next
okay.
patch. I'm just talking about this right now because next patch is
Yeah.
so up in the air right now.
Well, and at most, the only thing that we would have to worry about is the introduction of any potential new sets, or if they change the ones that they've already talked about. You know, just keeping an eye on that. But as far as like general strategy or composition, nothing's going to change there.
Okay, I did see a question earlier, and Joe, you'd probably be the one on this. In what settings is mending relevant?
So mending is just operated the same ever since it came out. So like if you are in a trial with a bunch of mobs and your group is taking a lot of damage, mending is a way to mitigate that. However, there are other sets that can keep your group alive in different ways, and a lot of that too is like mending is like a bit of a crutch, because really, like if your tanks are grouping everything correctly, facing things away from the group, your group is all positioned appropriately so that your healers can keep everybody healed. Mending should be completely unnecessary.
Gotcha.
And then you could supplement for like a sustain set that helps the group, like Holofang, or sets that provide more group buffs.
Which actually is probably a good place to start with sets and like what's required, what
Sure.
are some good things to have, what are some weird situational things that I currently have in my inventory that make no damn sense to other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Lately I've found myself in trials with a lot of people that have no idea what they're doing in general, and they're just learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been using mending almost exclusively.
Oh, totally. And that's
Yeah.
like the perfect way. And honestly, like when we were doing some of our dungeon achievement runs, we would be slapping on mending just because we were still learning the fight, and or or the boss has mechanics or whatever that like it was just easier for the healer and the tank to just manage the situation on a repetitive, in a repetitive way to get through the mechanics. So it's definitely useful. It's just one of those things in a trial set situation that should not be like the first go-to set if you're in a group that is like more experienced. So, but as far as like learning runs, or if you're just starting out, like mending is great. It just frees you up to focus on learning mechanics and positioning, and it does have the limit of range though, and that's one thing that you got to be mindful of, because if you're the healer and you're standing back healing everybody in front of you and they're all up in the business with the ads, then mending's not going to be doing anybody any good, because you kind of have to be in the middle of it.
Right.
Yeah. Because one thing that that you guys saw for Sunday, I'm thinking about doing because of the low participation, is the arenas. Maybe start getting some regularly scheduled arena runs. So in there, a healer, might that be a chance where if we did have a healer as a fourth person in, say, Dragonstar or Black Rose Prison to run mending?
Sure. Actually, when we were in Black Rose, there were a few rounds where we tried out mending. So like in situations like that, sure, yeah. I don't know if there's anything in DSA that dishes out enough damage to for mending to really be necessary, but it's also like the ad groups in BDSA are nowhere near as
Horrifying as Black Rose.
yeah. The ad pulls and everything in Black Rose, it's just so dense with ads, and you're taking so much damage all the time. Like mending is pretty useful in there.
I've never completed either Black Rose or VDSA on Vet, because I was stupid and I went in with random people in the past. But
That always works out.
We're gonna be doing runs. We're gonna be doing runs because I think Sunday's a good time to do it because of we might have 6 or 7 people interested. With the new perfected weapons dropping, and the new versions, you're gonna have people interested in doing runs.
That's a good call.
I need both of the restoration stabs out of those. Hence the whole failure to ever complete in the past.
Right.
Yeah, we'll get those for you. But
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Thank you for taking pity on me.
yeah, no, it's not piteous. Yeah, I don't need much of an excuse to get into VDSA. I love that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
I think it's just because I really shouldn't have been doing it with random people. That was not any kind of actual common sense.
Did somebody link mending in chat? What does it do? It increases your healing by a certain percentage?
No, it actually decreases. Here, let me link it. There you
The
go.
weapon damage of the enemy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's on my other tune.
I made sure to get all the healer gear on here so I can link things so we can talk about it and see it, which is horrible because my bank is full or my inventory is full. But it's fine. It's fine.
See,
Same.
this is another thing too. Like, in a lot of the times, if you're getting overwhelmed by mobs and your healers are having a hard time healing through the damage, most of the time that can be solved by alternate tactics, either with your tanks grouping or your DPS stack somewhere else. Because ideally, like if your tank is taking a lot of damage from a boss, one of your healers could potentially be running an infused staff with a crusher or weakening enchant, and it's gonna debuff by pretty much the exact same amount, if not more than Mending will, on that one priority boss.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So, like, as far as because otherwise you have to be within 10 meters, and it only lasts for 3 seconds.
And then
And the way that healing changed when they made everything more of a hot rather than your burst heal, like using your springs as a burst heal to keep Mending uptime up is not really an option anymore. So it's a lot more difficult to keep that Mending uptime to make it worth it in a lot of like situations where you're trying to debuff a boss.
Oh, that's right. Because we used to be able to cast healing springs like 3 times or something
It
like
was
that.
like what, 6 seconds, 4 seconds, something
Yeah.
stupid.
It was a
Yeah, you spam it.
Yeah, it was 4 seconds. Yeah,
It was
but it
fine.
had a big initial burst heal, and that's why it was like a
It
Yeah,
was really
springs
helpful
ban.
when I was initially learning how to heal.
oh totally. Yep.
That was like close to a year ago when I started to build this character. And I took my time in the beginning, and basically I had everybody as a guinea pig that I would run through with dungeons as friends. And I'm like, okay, let's try this and this and this.
Yeah.
So, question about trials and healing. Is there usually a dedicated healer for tanks? Because when I'm tanking, I usually just spam my own heals.
It
But that's probably not what I'm
depends.
supposed to be doing, so I'm not really sure how that relationship works.
Yeah, so not necessarily. Like VSS is one of those few cases where we do, and VAS too, where we're doing hard mode prog, where there is a dedicated tank healer. Usually, though, we're not too far off from the tank and the group, so all the hots hit both. It's not really something that you dedicate to unless they're just too far to get anything else that the group's getting.
Okay.
Um,
And then,
And usually, as the healer, like, I think in the back of your brain, your tank should always be a priority in some regard. Whether or not you're focusing on them, quote unquote, is another story. But like, I'm always gonna.
source-wise,
Yeah, my healings or my prayer is my priority for DPS, making sure they, the berserk uptime is as high as possible. Orbs through the group. But my tank, a lot of the times, I'm gonna keep springs on them. And then, on my Templar, like, my ritual's down for the group, and so they've got plenty of hots between my orbs, my combat prayer, and my ritual. But like, I'll keep a springs on my tank usually.
Yeah, and one thing that was missed too is good for the healer and the tank. I noticed in VSS, so the dragons before breath all have a certain animation that they do. So it's always good to know look for those animations to know when that's coming, because that's when the tank's going to take the most incoming damage.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that the hot's down and have a burst heal ready for him.
And like in that case with because like that's where a lot of our healers are getting frustrated with martial knowledge and Zens. Is right now is VSS, because that's the one we're bringing a lot of newer people in to try things. With VSS, healing and martial knowledge and Zens is very hard, and you're usually the tank healer. What I will do is like martial knowledge is pretty easy to keep up. It's really Zens. When the breath hits, I'll try to get my dots before, because like I know kind of the timing between breaths. When the breath hits, though, I am looking directly at the tank, and every second I'm hitting the combat prayer, which is my only burst heal that's on my bar at the time. Now, the problem with that lately is, like, we have a lot of tanks who are dodge rolling now, And when they dodge roll, they shouldn't be taking damage, but sometimes it gets miscalculated, and then they're out of your combat prayer range. So sometimes you just have to kind of follow your tank during the breath a little bit. And if you have to, you just have to. If your Zens drops off like 2 dots, it's fine. It's really easy to keep Zens right back up to reapply your dots. But you just need to be on the tank during the breath. And just, every second, because it's only 3 ticks of damage. So you only need to watch them for those 3 ticks.
Well, VSS, like you were saying, Batani, is a great boot camp, if you will, for healers learning how to maintain both of those sets, because it does force you to pay attention to not only where your tank is at and what they're going through, but like the boss mechanics and all the ad mechanics, because you have to be preemptive, you have to be predictive with your healing, like you were saying. Because if you get into a rhythm with the boss animations and the way that your tank is tanking, you can have all of your hots down in place, have an orb halfway to the tank before he does any of his breath, while you go instantly are reapplying all of your dots and getting your martial knowledge back on the boss. And then when it comes to that last 2 or 3 ticks of damage, that's when you just do a quick spin over, like combat prayer, and they're good to go.
Yes.
And do tanks have that much issues with breath? I mean, I've only main tanked it once or twice, but I didn't really have any issues with breath.
This last patch has been hard. Because of how they changed
Drop blocks.
Yes, drop blocks. But not only that, like before you could cast and block. You can't cast and block.
Yeah.
Now. So when you I would always hit Iggy Shield in the middle of the breath, and I've had to stop doing that. I have to hit it before the breath now, and it's just like a rhythm. And I think they've messed with block cost and didn't tell anybody, but this patch has made it a little bit harder, and that's definitely been noticeable even on our normal tanks like Taco and Fizz and stuff.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a thing I've noticed, that this last patch has just made that just a little bit worse.
Right. Well, and like I was saying about the being predictive, it's less about reacting to a tank who's struggling and more of making sure that they never get in that situation. So that's why I'm kind of always doing that no matter who's tanking, because should anything happen, should there be a weird calculation with their block cost, it's going to be easier to recover from that.
Yes.
Well, and tank should be doing the same as well, so it should overlap some. If they're struggling, wear Vicosa and Bash before, or whatever they need to do, or if they're on their Stork, then you can pop Bound Aegis before you block.
Right.
So in VCR, Cloud Rest, so what are the usually healer sets? I know whenever we progged it back last year, there was a healer always in Eben. Was that because for the mini bosses there was a healer in Eben because the tanks don't really reach them?
They're just close to the groups, right?
So actually, well, I don't know. When I was progging, it was one healer was in Olo and Sanctuary, the other one was in IA and Worms. That's how long ago it's been since I've progged VC.
Well, yes, Couch, to answer that question, yeah, because the main tank, when you have a main tank who was staying up the whole time, they were in YOLO and Alkosh. And then the group healer was in Olo and Eben. Actually, the last few times that I've run VCR, we just haven't had Eben.
Yeah.
Which is fine too if everyone's able to, because usually it's all Magtoons and they're all running by stat food, so health isn't really an issue on anybody.
Yeah, it doesn't become an issue till the +1s when you have the orbs that are shooting out projectiles like crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
That will definitely.
Anyone
be
going
something.
downstairs, a lot of them should be prepped for self-healing, because they might need to go. There's a whole group of them that go downstairs, and there's the backups. So you'd think that the extra strength isn't going to be necessary, because they should survive downstairs with Eben in the first place, and it's going to be this kind of similar damage upstairs.
Well, once you get in the pluses projectiles, they start shooting out multiple. When you kill an orb, they'll shoot out 2 projectiles at you that'll hit you for 5k each. And you might get hit by, if 2 orbs die at the same time, you can get hit by 4 of those to get hit for 20k instantly.
Yeah, that's usually when you see Eben brought back into the picture.
Okay, so Eben isn't really worn on healers anymore then?
It still is, yeah. But like I said,
No off
Or
tank.
where?
So anytime there's going to be a situation where the off tanks can't wear it, that would be the group healer's job. the one that's staying mostly in the group. Like the only time I used to wear it recently was VSS, but then we realized the off tank could wear it the whole time, and then we stopped. I think the only ever time I wear Ebon now is like in dungeons, so like they can wear all caution Yolnahkrin, and I'll just wear Ebon and Olo.
Okay. See, I thought the Ebon was required for Cloud Rest, but it was Sunspire.
I think we wore it in. I remember wearing it in Sunspire. I healed Cloud Rest a few times, and I don't ever remember wearing it in Cloud Rest.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay, maybe I was wrong.
It's been a while, but
Yeah. I've only
I remember
worn
Sanctuary.
progress during the pluses.
Yeah, and I do remember Sanctuary to get all the healing power possible for that Baneful crap. I don't know if it's necessary anymore, but I remember that.
we have alternatives to Sanctuary and Worms now, so
Mhm.
we definitely will have a different setup than we did
And
before.
so another question along the same lines: when does Toregs get worn? Or Toregs?
Yes,
Torag's pack. That is weird.
because I have it and I've never been told to wear it ever. I have a crafted set currently on my character. I've just never.
Well, and
been
I
told
see it run in some other groups, but never usually in Federation. And then Joe might be able to answer this question, but like, so if you have an infused Torogs with Crusher,
Mhm.
and the tank puts Crusher on with Claw or Alkash or whatever, the
Mhm.
Torogs is going to override it, correct? Because it's going to be a higher Crusher enchant?
No.
Yes.
Is
It,
it?
well, but
Well-
it's not in like that simple of a fact. It's so like
It's
if
whoever places it last, that one is up until the next one's placed?
yes, exactly.
That sounds right.
So
Yeah.
So
if
it-
you are in Torogs, you're gonna need to like pretty much tell your tank to not put
Not
down
have a
the
Crusher.
wall, because you're gonna want yours up over your tanks.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you'd want it up over the tanks, but I think the whole point of wearing it is to get 100% uptime on Crusher.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
yes, you want yours up, but you also want the tank to be keeping theirs up, because you're not always going to be able to keep it up, I think, is what...
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it's like it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of things because
Yeah.
and that's really why you like if you were to see a lot of really high-end score pushing guilds, that's really where you're starting to see it come back. But you know, the everyday guild like us, it's rare that we're going to have a healer in Torgs.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry, kind of hijacked it there for a minute.
no, that's all.
Good
I mean,
question.
those it was like the people who are reading through our requirements page and like probably don't know half the reasons why like these gears are
Well,
required.
and that's one of the main reasons I haven't made a healer yet, is just there's so much shit that's required, and when
Yeah.
and where to use it all.
Right.
Because, I mean, I run quite a few trials, and I pay attention somewhat to the gear that's worn, and it's usually a rotation of maybe 4 different sets.
Well, and here's another scenario too. Let's say you're in a group that is going into content for the first time. Like we're gonna be doing this trial, no one knows what they're doing, blah blah blah. And the end goal obviously is to have your healers get familiar with Zen's martial knowledge, managing their buffs first in the group. But if everyone is still learning mechanics, but you still want to like have some good debuff and buff uptime, like slap Torgs on instead of Zens. So that way, like you at least know that you're gonna have your Crusher uptime. You're gonna be boosting the group's damage, but it's less for you to have to manage and maintain while you're learning mechanics, so that you're not like dying to things or, so like you can supplement a lot of those things with some more simplistic sets like Torix while you're learning, and then you can make the swap eventually. And it's the same thing for your tanks. Like maybe they're still learning how the boss's damage ticks are happening, and so they're not maintaining their blockade as much or whatever. So yeah, that's where I've worn Torgs as well, as like during learning rounds.
So real quick, because we've done a lot of questions and we haven't gone over anything I had planned, so I'm gonna hijack this chat right back from all y'all.
Do it.
Oh.
Listen, I actually said I have like 5 pages of notes in front of me, and I will cry if I don't get to use them. Okay.
Let's get through them.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Get
I'm all
started.
ears.
Okay.
Lay it on us.
So the first thing, because we're talking about gear anyway, let's go over our gear. What's required for our sets right now? These are your required sets. Currently is Olorime, which I think at this point no one has any objections to. Everyone knows how this works.
Yep.
I do have a question about it, but we can wait till after you're done if you
No,
want.
no, go ahead. What's your question?
So setting it, you set it down by any ground-based AOE, correct? Doesn't have to be healing, just a ground-based AOE,
Correct. Yes.
and it's set down once every 10 seconds.
Yes.
And so if you set it down after 10 seconds, and then you go to heal a tank with the ground AOE, he's gonna have Olo for those 10 seconds. But it doesn't really matter because DPS gets it for 30 seconds.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay,
Technically,
cool.
you want to try to avoid that as much as possible. It's easier to 1-bar Olo, so like you know what's gonna place your Olo. But
Yeah.
yes, technically you can place it every 10 seconds and it lasts for like 30. You're gonna have 100% uptime even if you misplace it one time.
Cool.
What's our next?
You can keep
Hollow
going.
Fang. Okay. Hollow Fang is our next required set. This is our replacement for Worms, essentially, and kind of Sanctuary as well. It's a good combo of both. We, of course, have Zens, which everyone wants to cry and hate on. Everyone hates Zens. There's your Zens requirement. Martial Knowledge. Eben, again, and that's a weird situational, we don't wear it as much. Let's see, Yorvald's, which again hasn't been worn a whole lot, and I don't know. There it is. Gossamer, which is another situational set, and I have it right there. And the last
Alright.
required set is Sanctuary. Go ahead. I'll just link it. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Just Hollow Fang, it got really popular whenever Sustain got really bad, whenever they increased the cost of AoEs. Correct? That when it started to get really popular, or was it popular before that?
It was one of those things that, like,
It came out around the same time as all that was happening.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
It-
And so it... Go ahead, Vitani.
it's one of those things that, like, even without like resources being super bad, it probably will still get ran just because it's got the buff of the healing received, so it's a good replacement.
Minor Vitality.
Yeah, so it doesn't have, you don't have to worry about Sanctuary as much because Sanctuary has such a short, shitty range. It's still
Gotcha.
a replacement for that almost.
And so it procs on somebody if they get critically healed. Do you have it on right now?
I do not, but I will put
Okay.
it on real quick.
Well, I was wondering, I should know what the ball looks like, but I don't know what the ball looks like.
There it is.
There it is.
Oh, it's that big ball? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And so after 9 seconds, or you can't proc it again for 9 seconds, so gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense. Cool.
Yes, and if you're especially on a Khajiit Necro, that's pretty much almost on cooldown. But the Wardens, almost all the time, my Templar doesn't have a good uptime, but that's because I don't have the Crit Mundus. I have the Speed Mundus on, and that's because I'm doing something completely different.
Yeah.
And it's always worn with Olo? Or not always, but
It doesn't
the
have
majority
to
of the
be.
time Hollow Fang's paired with Olo?
Yes, the majority of the time that is correct.
Okay.
I think usually too, if it's a warden doing it, just maintaining that that toughness, because it has like a free burst heal associated with it, and so wherever that procs, you're gonna also refresh your toughness as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then Sanctuary.
Yeah,
Is it
Sanctuary.
worn anywhere?
It's great. It's a good heal to have, but 10 meters, you have to be right on the group all the time. so you can't run to do something. It's good. That's what we used to use in VCR. That's how I got my VCR completes. I was wearing Sanctuary all the whole time.
10 meters is pretty good. Is a pretty good distance, or no?
No, I think do I have anything that's 10 meters skill wise?
It's slightly bigger than Springs. So Springs is 8 meters, so just like trying to think here.
So like
Ritual is 12 meters, so like in between.
And Ritual's pretty huge.
So like right here,
Yeah.
like probably between me and Cage, Sanctuary would probably give out.
And that's like, and then all the way behind you as well, 10 meters, right? So I mean, that's
Yes.
pretty.
It is a circle, yes.
Okay, cool.
And that's why it's still a required set to have.
Why?
Because there's weird situations. It's kind of like currently on my character, I have sets that aren't required, but I use for weird stuff randomly that make no sense. Let's see. I have a random set of CAGs because sometimes you just need it.
Yeah, we need that in boss.
Yeah, for real. I used to wear Shackle Breaker when I was first learning to front kite in boss, not now on R+1s.
Yeah.
But when I was first learning and I was losing resources because I didn't know how to dodge roll things, that's what I used to use, and I still have a set on it, just,
Yeah.
you know, for whenever.
Okay.
That's like why I still have Mending, I still have Worms, and I still have Infallible Aether. Because, why not? They're gold. I'm gonna keep them.
Of course.
I have so many sets, like, that I had collected last year, and they're just, like, languishing in my bank. Because a lot of them are not even used anymore.
There's definitely, because, like, I have a full set of Heedy that I probably will never get to use in a trial, but it's good for other places. I've got Cold Harbor's Favorite, a crafted set of that, because that's great for BGs. Twilight's Remedy, I have a full set of that, and I have a full set of Hanus. It's just things that I probably will never wear, but I'm keeping, because I have worn them in situations.
What about monster sets?
Monster sets. Our required monster sets right now are still...
I'll pick up Cable real quick.
Did I not? I'm pretty sure let me look. Hang on. There we go. Okay. Our required sets are Earthgore, Symphony of Blades, Sentinel, and Bogdan.
Yeah. And we're supposed to have Earthgore too, though?
Earthgore is still technically on their required set. I don't know if that's just never been changed, but I still do have my set of it. It is still technically on the list. I do also have Chokethorn and Troll King, because...
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know, I mean, with the Hedes, I was told about 2 weeks ago, the Hedes was useful for PvP healers.
It is. It's fantastic for PvP healers, and I can think of situations where it'd be useful in PvE, but there are definitely some people who, if you say that, they'd be like, no!
I've seen it run on like Blackroad Prison on chain runs, like on ESL logs on PC. They'll have the healer wearing Heedy, because it'll reduce the block.
Tanks wear the Heedy also.
Yeah, it's a great HOT. It heals great.
It's
a
about
nice area.
6k per second or something I saw. Same as about Healing Springs.
Yeah, it's pretty strong.
Yes, it's a good set to have. It's not necessarily something like, it's just kind of one of those like priority things. Like, do you need a whole 5-piece set to give you a HOT when you could just put down your Illustrious Healing? Like, it's just like one of those things. Is it worth sacrificing 5 whole pieces for that?
Right.
For sure.
And Naya actually had a question about monster hats. When's the best time to use what monster set? I think most people default to Bogdan because it's a good little hot. Sentinel and Symphony are both resource sets. Sentinel procs often, but it gives little resources back. But it does give Magicka and Stamina back, but only if they stand within the spider. Now, they did fix the spider recently, this patch, where it doesn't wander off to buttfuck Egypt and not do anything to anybody. So he does actually
So annoying.
stay. It was horrible. He does stay
VSS
where
was
he
like, hey,
procs.
where are you going? Get back here.
Just walks away from the group completely. It was bad. They fixed that. He is slightly useful now. Most people prefer Symphony, and Symphony will get fixed this next upcoming patch, where I think it will.
It's gonna be a nice next patch, yeah.
It's gonna be nice. Right now, the reason Sentinel is a little bit better than Symphony, even though Symphony gives. Oh, I linked these. Okay, so Symphony gives back like 2,000 Magicka or stamina every second for 6 seconds. That's great, but it can only proc every 18 seconds per person. So like, it's not even like it can proc on couch and then next second it procs on me and then we have an 18-second cooldown. It's the set itself. So it'll proc on couch, then 18 seconds later it can proc on me, then 18 seconds later it can proc on cage. It's a long gap. It's super useful as long as you're not struggling for resources the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and my understanding of Symphony is that it's only useful if 3 or more support people are wearing it.
Currently, yes.
Oh no. I think. Oh. Yeah, this is somebody from my other guild. I think they followed me here.
Oh.
Let me let me whisper them real quick.
And so Sentinel, you're saying, is better for resources right now?
It procs more often. It's a little hot that gives a little bit of healing. It gives resources back to an area of people. So more people get it back, and it procs more often.
And is the 5 meters based off of you or the person that it procs on?
Yeah. So
The spider itself. It's 5 meters around the spider.
And the
wherever
spider
that spawns.
should now spawn at the point where it got procced. So it should spawn on the person that got it. Now, if it spawned and then the person moved, it's still going to stay stationary at that one spot, though.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay,
you
so
gotta have
it's...
to keep a little stack. Yeah, you want everybody nice and tightly stacked for it to get the most benefit out of it as far as the resource return.
Yes, Naya, situational. She wanted to know when you would prioritize a heal monster helm versus a resource one, and that's going to be your group comp if they're saying, hey, I need stuff like VHOF.
Yeah.
Everyone complained in VHOF about not having any resources, so like Spider, Symphony, Master
Yeah.
Resto, I was doing everything to give people as much resources as possible.
For example, when I was healing VMAL hard mode not too long ago, and because I was the martial knowledge Zens person, and that was my priority, like, too bad guys, if you're not in the stack getting what little heals I have, then it's on you. So I defaulted to Bogdan, just to have some kind of off heal that I didn't have to manage because I was busy.
And that's usually what I try to do. I don't do that when I'm running like VSS, because like in that case where I'm really the only person feeding the tank and
Oh, sure,
not so
yeah.
much tank, I usually put Symphony on them, so it usually procs on them quite a bit.
For sure, yeah.
But it's a group count. Ask your group.
Yes.
Ask your
Strong
group what they
communication
want.
is key.
Yes, for sure.
And then the problem with Earthcore and Chokethorn is that they only heal one person?
Technically, yes. So now Earthgore only heals one person, Strong Burst, and like that's kind of like Earthgore to me was like something to help me learn. Like I would put Earthgore on when I was learning how to heal the ice prisons because I was worried I couldn't do it. I'm not.
It still purges, right?
I think it
Yes.
still purges. It's definitely one of those things, like, it's not as good as it used to be, but it's definitely something, if you're learning, Earthgore still is very helpful for a very strong burst heal. No one uses Chokethorn. That was my favorite monster helm ever. When I became I became part of this Trials Guild, they're like, no, Bogdan. I was like, I don't even have a set of Bogdan. What are you talking about? But Chokethorn actually is getting a little bit of a buff next patch, but we're gonna wait again because I don't want to like say it's gonna be great next patch if they're gonna change it. So we'll see. We also, of course, have the Black Rose, the Master Staffs. Are required, and we've kind of touched up on them, and they're hang on, Link. I don't have a perfected one, so if you have it, link it, because I don't.
Is this magical recovery?
Is getting nerfed too.
I needed a Black Rose Prison still. I'm stupid.
I do too.
And again, like, the Black Rose Prison is like a super situational staff, but it's so helpful when you have it. Those ice prisons are so easy with it, especially if you have the healing morph of the ward now, and it's just like, boom! You pop that, and those people are done. They're healed, they're gone.
Question.
Yeah.
So, is there a time to where it's more useful to use, like, the Bone Surge that gives minor or major vitality over using the Black Rose Resto staff that gives major vitality?
They would have to pop the synergy that's provided by the
So just anybody though, right? Like one of 6 people have to pop it? Is that how it works?
I'm pretty sure.
Let me read, hang on, because you ask all the good questions and I'm not always prepared.
I wouldn't call them good, just the crazy questions that nobody thinks about.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah. An ally near you can activate the synergy, granting an ally and up to 5 other allies the damage shield and the major vitality.
And how long does it last?
6 seconds.
And it's a cooldown, synergy cooldown technically. But I use the Bone Surge. I use that to keep my stamina down for martial knowledge if there's already a stamina in the group, because it has a good buff and it keeps your stamina down, and it doesn't cost a whole lot, so you still have wiggle room to block and dodge roll and stuff.
Yeah. I'll usually do the same thing. If there's a stam flyer, I'll use Circle of Protection and then my Bone Shield to manage my stam.
And then Black Rose Prison doesn't have a resto, or doesn't have a cooldown? Just whenever they get the person, whenever, and how does Steadfast Ward work? Is it based on who you're looking at, or, because I've heard a couple times, like, in VHOF, somebody saying, like, I tried to hit you with my prison and da-da-da-da.
Yeah, so now with VSS, it's fine, because it's only you, the person in the prison, and the off-tank back there. You can aim your ward. However, if you're in something where, like, we're looking at everyone here, no, my ward's gonna go to potentially anyone, right now me, because I don't have food on. But
it does prioritize the person with the lowest health, but because of that, if you are facing, you know, a stack of DPS who are taking constant damage and your tank who you're trying to hit, it is a little bit of a crapshoot.
Yes. So you usually try to, like, turn away. Like, I always, like, in VHOF, I would, like, try to prioritize, so only, like, Taco was in my field of vision, so then I could hit her with it.
Okay.
I told my friends here, they're a newer player. I told them what we were doing, what we were talking about. Now they're nervous about the fact that it's a Vexil. They're like, ah! I'm like, stop it, you're okay.
Look at us, we're all getting together as friends, talking shop.
Okay, so the bone surge isn't gonna work if I'm here and you're way over there.
Correct.
Not gonna give you major vitality. But if we're all grouped up, it makes sense. That's where Black Rose Prison's gonna come in, is if I need to.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be away, or because, like, in the case of the ice prisons, which is the most time I use this, they can't activate the synergy when they're prisoned.
Oh, of course.
So, for example, the Bone Shield is amazing in VCR of any kind, because everyone is ideally stacked up nice on the tail. If a DPS pops the synergy, 9 times out of 10, the tank is also going to get that buff, and so for Baneful, it's really great to just kind of maintain that Bone Surge synergy as much as possible.
Cool. And then, when do you use your Master Resto?
When they are, I usually default to the Master Resto most of the time for resources.
Same. Yep.
I always usually have a special staff. The only few times I don't is when I'm running martial knowledge and Zens, because I don't just want to like retrait my whole Master Resto staff just for Zens. So.
Oh, you have one? Shh. Okay.
I have 5 healers, Cage. Okay, I'm not doing this. They all have
And
their
then
own stats.
Maelstrom Resto you don't really use very often because you don't really have to worry about sustain as a healer, or?
Yes,
Correct.
so I use the Maelstrom Resto only in Battlegrounds and PvP.
Okay. Cool.
Asylum is a situational thing too. That's if you're having resource issues, is when you would use Asylum.
How much mega coverage should I have? I have 1,600 right now.
That depends on you.
But with go ahead.
Yeah, with food, I'm comfortable on my Argonian with it's around 15k or 1,500 is my comfortable on my Argonian. Like right now on buy stat food with wearing what I'm wearing on my mismatched sets, I have 1,200, and that's gonna leave me popping potions a little bit more than I would want to.
And then I'm gonna jump to skills real quick, but ultimates wise, when should you not use Warhorn? Is there any time?
Yes, I don't. I will prioritize, like in our prog groups, when we're learning, people need to stay alive over dying and Warhorns. So like our +2 prog, I actually have Pansiera as my ultimate, and I use that.
What's Pansiera?
Panacea. I'm sorry, I can pronounce things. That's the Resto Staff ultimate. Hang on, I need all.
That was called Pancreas.
Yeah. I thought it was
Doesn't it only heal one other person though?
No,
like you and one other.
So, well, technically, it's. I looked it up because I wanted to make sure I pronounced it right. It's because it was weird. It's Panacea.
Totally.
It gives a like 9k heal every 1 second for 5 seconds. So it will heal me.
So one person.
Yes. So like it will heal, but not every time. Like it can heal Cage 1 second. The next second it can jump to Couch. The next second it can jump to.
Oh, I see.
So every tick can go to a different person, but only one person at a time.
Interesting. Okay.
And why
so
would you use
Life Giver?
I use. Hang on, I have to.
Because this is the other one.
Major Force. So I use Life Giver because the only time I'm using this is to like heal myself in the tank. So I don't need to give Major Force to the tank. So yes, I do not give. That's Light's Champion is the other morph.
Right. Okay. There you go. Yep.
And why would you use that over Barrier? Because it's cheaper, or because Barrier's not very good, or?
It's cheaper, and I need a heal. I don't need a shield at the time.
Doesn't Barrier give you like 20k health and a shield?
It gives you a shield, and then it will give you a heal over time. Yes, technically. Reviving Barrier gives you 14k health over 15 seconds, so like a 1,000 a second. It's not like a burst heal. It's just a big damage shield.
Gotcha.
I prefer a big old burst heal for that situation. But any other time I'm running a trial where I don't have to like babysit myself, I will 100% use Barrier for the group.
How much health do you have in Voss at this front kite? It's kind of off topic.
I've been running anywhere between 18 to 23. Trying out different sets and monster helms and stuff.
Gotcha. Sounds low.
It's a fun time. It's a fun experiment. While we're on the topic of skills, though, hang on, I have those somewhere. Let's talk about what skills should you have on your healer. I'm going to give you class-specific skills that are only something that you can potentially give the group as your class. We can go over general skills here in a little bit, too. Templar skills, and this is sometimes going to be situational. I'm just going to go over all of them. Stuff that you can give the group that not really is a common thing to give the group. The Nova Ultimate for Templars. That gives Major Maim, which isn't a debuff that gets applied often, but it's also super situational, and that's not something you would mainly prioritize unless everyone's just getting their butts kicked a lot. Like, the only time I've ever actually gotten Nova, which I use Solar Disturbance of the Morph for that, is when we were learning VSS on Navintus with the ads. When all the ads were grouped up, I would drop Nova so they all have Major Maim, so they did less damage to the tanks.
Which morph of Nova?
Solar Disturbance. Solar Disturbance, when the ads leave, they still have the debuff on them for 4 seconds.
I've seen it used like in VHOF on the 4th boss, the triplets, when they're all 3 brought in.
Yeah.
Or on the 5th boss, whenever it's on hard mode and you're in execute and they're doing a ridiculous amount of damage.
Yes, the Major Maim to reduce the damage. That's something that you can give, but it's also something that you wouldn't necessarily prioritize over like a Warhorn, unless you're like asked to bring that in for the group comp or because of the situation.
And wardens can do the same thing, right? Give, or is theirs different? There's some major protection?
They can give Major Maim, but from Frozen Device, which is not something healers usually use.
Okay.
But Frozen Device can give Major Maim, but that's usually only something a Warden tank would use.
Yeah.
So cool.
So another thing that only Templars can give is Spear Shards, or Luminous Shards in our case, which is it's a little bit better than Orbs for just the part that it gives you both resources back, but it only goes to one person, and it's on the same cooldown as Orbs. So most of the time, you just want to keep Orbs on your bar. But if you have a place for it, that's a good thing to give the tank, especially a DK tank that uses both pools of resources often. But most people choose to use Orbs. I prefer Orbs in most situations. It's multiple people can pop an Orb, and it's on the same cooldown as Shards. So
It's good if you're too far away to give, if the orbs won't reach them.
yes, which we've had some issues with, and like I have Shards on my bar for our prog right now to give fits when I'm way over away.
Yep.
Now, is it pointless to have both?
If you have literally nothing else you can put on your bar, like there
I mean,
are
I've just always had both.
I used to run both, but like I would just like give Shards to just the tank, and then I would Orbs the group. But technically speaking, most of the time your Orbs float to the tank too, so you can have them both on your bar, especially if you're more comfortable. But could be other skills you might want to have on instead.
But in dungeons, it might be nice because you could do the damage version, maybe? Does a good amount of damage, or no?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it still does damage even with the morph I have, the Luminous Shards. I mean, it does more damage for the other morph, but yes, I use
not by
it in
much,
dungeons.
though.
Yeah, I use it in dungeons.
The damage
often.
difference really isn't that significant since they nerfed the hell out of the dot itself.
Gotcha.
Really, the most of the damage that comes from shards is from your Burning Light passive. That's really where that's why it's still a viable DPS skill, really.
Gotcha.
Did you have a question, Kitty?
So in shepherding people through normal trials, so where they're learning, I've sort of adopted the habit of blanketing the field with orbs because I keep running into problems with keeping people grouped because they panic, and that's sort of what I've been doing. And I've also noticed that like they're ignoring the shards and they're going after the balls. I'm not...
No, that's
Ooh, shiny!
I noticed that too.
that is accurate. I have seen that so many times, like in pug groups and dungeons. No one will pick up a shard, but heaven forbid you put a ball out there, everyone's like boom, boom, boom.
Balls.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's the thing.
I don't know. I mean, so when I do these, learning trials, especially with this other guild I got plopped into a couple weeks ago, I've made a habit of making sure I have an experienced tank with me, and I don't even really have to pay attention to them. I've been focusing everything on the DPS. But one thing, because I'm not as conversant with tank stuff, but I've been running into tanks that obviously don't have the skills they need out, and they're incredibly squishy, and I can't really help offset that too much, because I just don't know exactly what kind of gear they're supposed to have anyway, and I have
You're running into it where? In normal trials or in dungeons?
In normal trials, tanks that are either brand new, or the other thing I've noticed is that quite a few of them are running hybrid guilds. I mean, not guild, builds.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've been struggling to keep them alive.
What do you mean by hybrid builds? Like DPS tank type build, or?
Yep. And I feel like completely unequipped to. I just don't know enough about tanking to teach tanks.
Yeah, I mean a lot of that should be on them. I noticed like a lot of new tanks, what they'll do is they'll either stack a bunch into health and have like 50k health, and so they'll have no magicka and no stamina to do anything, so they'll like won't be able to block after a couple of blocks, and then they'll die.
Had a couple wipes in NSS that were a complete disaster.
Yeah, because I mean, go ahead.
Well, no, it's just not really.
It's not on you at that point. The tanks, that's on them more than anything. I mean, they just happy to help them if they want help, but it's kind of a long conversation to go over.
I mean,
but you shouldn't. If you throw resources to a tank every once in a while, they should be fine for the most part. Kind of like Vitani was talking about earlier, to where after the breaths and Veteran Sunspire, she'll do combat prayer a couple of times. Because most tanks, I have a Sorka Warden and a DK tank, all three of them have a burst heal that'll heal for around 12 to 15k, and then it'll crit for 25 to 35k. Just one heal. And so, me healing myself usually isn't an issue. The only time I'll run into an issue is if I run out of resources.
Yeah.
And that's usually on me, just learning, not knowing the mechanics, blocking too much, overhealing, something like that. But if they're having trouble staying alive, it's probably because they're overusing their resources or just don't know what they're doing. But not much you can really do to fix that.
And I know some of them don't actually want to change their character builds. So I've backed out of conversations a couple times, because I've had to adopt this strategy kind of thing of like, okay, I've identified that you don't even want to listen, so I'm not gonna talk to you about it because it's just depressing.
Yes. So like, that's one of the things that Taco's running into. Like, we have very few vet-approved tanks, and most of our vet-approved tanks double as healers or DPS. So like, they're not always tanking. And when new tanks come in, especially when you're just like, you're in a dungeon mindset, and a lot of people don't even run healers, they're all about health. They don't look at their resources, they don't look at their resistances, and a lot of them get stuck in their ways because they don't want to. It's hard. Let's all admit here, it's hard farming 27 different sets. It sucks. You don't like changing. You don't want to waste money, or you don't want to like pay gold to like change everything and relearn something. But that's on them at that point. Like, and like Taco's having a problem with like people wanting to tank, and then she goes, "This is what we kind of require for tanks," and then they go, "Well, I don't want to do that," and she goes, "Well, I'm sorry, then you can't." Like, sometimes just gotta be a little mean.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been trying to sort through people to see who might even want to come to Fed if they're willing to learn and they want to advance and be a part of, vet stuff eventually. but that's why I brought War God into the guild, because he's not going to argue with you guys.
We like that.
That's fair.
He's a nice tank. And
Did you finally get
he's
over it?
Oh yeah, he was dealing with life stuff. That's what was wrong with him. He's fine now. But I mean, he's been killing himself in NSS, pugging constantly, trying to get Yulna crit, and I think he's losing his shit because he can't get the lightning attack.
Oh, bummer. Well, and I'm always down for a good argument, so if you want to bring him in here and have him talk to me, I will happily argue with him all
It's not
day.
that we ask people to completely conform to like this one thing. Like you can have thoughts and opinions and ask questions. Me, Couch asked about a new set that was coming out, and like I think it's cool. Couch thinks it was cool, but like we had.
Fitz got angry.
It's all about practicality, and it was a good discussion, and it wasn't horrible. It could have been worse. I definitely feel like it definitely could have been worse. But like it's okay to ask questions, and that's what I liked about this guild, because I definitely had some morphs of some things that I should have had the other morph of, but I didn't understand why. So
the general mentality is like, if you're going to be a support role in ESO, you have to have some sense of humility when it comes to being flexible and being willing to work with your team, because otherwise, I'm sorry, but like, if you're a healer because you don't care about anybody, like what are you doing? You know,
I mean, that's why I'm a doctor.
like what are you? Why are you? Yeah. So like, I don't. That's the part I don't get.
And on his part, he has a ton of questions, and I can't answer a bunch of them because there are a lot of them about gear, and he's busy collecting everything for the Vet Plus requirements. Because I've been trying to convince him that it's okay for him to go into the base Craglorns, because he actually has a ton of gear already, but
yeah, he can go into Vet Craglorns and tank those. That's what I did. Like, all I had when I first started tanking, all I got was Eben from Crypt of Hearts, and then I crafted Torox, and that's what I used to tank all the Craglorns on Veteran.
Same. Yep, same.
He's doing it because he's got that whole stage fright thing, because he's somewhat intimidated by the fact everybody else is a lot more used to stuff than him. So I'm trying to make him feel better about it.
You can have him message me. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. I'm not the best tank, but I'm learning, so like, I'm happy to
have him, like, if he doesn't want to like go into the Discord and go into like the public tank chat because he's worried about maybe some other opinions coming in that are a little too strong, have him like directly message Taco. Like, she's not mean despite what people think. Like, she's really nice.
He has been texting back and forth with her over the past couple of days. I did get him to do that. So she's been, I'm not exactly sure what they've been saying to each other, but she was giving him...
You gave him Taco's cell phone number?
Oh god, no.
No, I'm kidding. Sorry, go ahead.
He does want help, and then I kind of got worried because before I plopped him into Federation, he found this other vet guild, and I was like, oh god, please be careful, because there's some out there that are really toxic. And he's so green with a lot of things. I'm just like, please don't ruin your experience.
That was
there's a lot of bad information out there from a lot of guilds.
Yeah, but he's so open to suggestions and everything. I just can't get him to like jump into the Discord enough. So
well, you can have him DM Foolish anytime. I'm happy to help, but I don't have much time left. Can we jump back onto the healer skills?
Yeah, and I do have to get going too, because
we just got Joe just whispered me. I think he's on a timer since Ella just went down for a nap.
Alright, so
I'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, go ahead. If you need to go. I will go through the rest of the skills and stuff now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's all
You're streaming, right?
Okay.
I'm streaming, and I'm even kicking around the idea of just making a healer video that's not like just random topics of conversation. It's just very strict of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sorry.
Well, and I'm gonna ask one more thing before you go through all the skills. So, prioritizing buffs and skills and healing and when to do what? What is the priority for a healer?
So prioritizing buffs is rough because that's one thing we don't ever talk about is group comp really that much, because one of the skills I actually wanted to talk about is a skill that no one has. I guarantee you none of you have it unlocked on your thing. It's Siphon Spirit, Force Siphon. It's the last skill on the Resto Sap line. We could be using that every time Naya's tanking, but we're not. And it's just
why when she's tanking?
So here's the and technically Taco apparently because her morph. Ellie Drain. We use Ellie Drain for two reasons: for the Major Breach, and for the Magicka Steel. However, tanks can do Major Breach with their skill Puncture. They can apply Major Breach if they have a certain morph of it. And Naya...
Pierce Armor?
Yes. Pierce Armor, thank you. Pierce Armor, which is what Naya would have as a Warden tank, gives Major Breach. So we don't need to run Ellie Drain, but we still want the Magicka Steel. So we could run that instead, because it gives also the Minor Life Steal. So we wouldn't have to run Altar and Ellie Drain just for the steals. We could just run this one skill and get both of them down. But, like, that's something you'd have to talk about with your tanks every time, and do we want to always have that conversation? It's a lot easier just to slot Blood Altar and Ellie Drain.
Well, and that's also assuming that she's only taunting with her sword and board, and not range taunting.
Yes.
Because if she range taunt, then it's not going to get Major Fracture and Major Breach.
That is true, but now most of the cases, like, we're going to want this boss fights. I mean, like, let's be honest, healers, how many of you should be applying Ellie Drain in the ad fights, but are you Ellie Draining every single ad? You should be, but
Invite
are you?
Mercy.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's something that I noticed I was watching the Voss 2 POVs this morning. I spent like 2 hours watching it, and there was a point to where Felms was at 90% health in the entire time, from 90 down to when we killed him. He didn't have Ellie Drain on him, and since Taco was running Ransack, he didn't have Major Breach, Major Fracture, or any really debuffs, no Alkosh, so...
So, Taco actually has the other morph. She doesn't have the one that gives protection. She has the one that gives breach.
Her POV I watched was the one, it showed breach, or it showed the one that gives protection.
Oh, she might have.
But it was from 2 weeks ago.
Okay, because like we were just talking about it in VSS the other day. Mine,
yeah.
I have the one that gives me protection now because I just remorphed it. So that one gives protection, so I don't do the Major Breach, so Ellie Drain's needed for me. With Naya, because she has major or minor protection already from her Frost Cloak, she doesn't need it from her Ransack, so she uses Pierce Armor and gives the Major Breach.
Yeah, and then Ellie Drain, it doesn't give Major Fracture as well, right? It only gives Major Breach?
Just Breach, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So, like, my Necro Healer and my Warden Healer both have that Siphon skill, the Siphon Spirit, because my Necro Healer can apply Breach also, and usually does. But we are not talking about DPS things right now, sir. But that's little things to talk about. Group comp with your priority buffs. You want to give stuff that help damage. And then, like, there are other things, like, let's talk about Resolve and Ward. Are those necessary? Nah, that's debatable. I think it's better to have them, for sure. I like when I have more resistances to things, but is that something you have to give? Not necessarily. But it's something you do usually give in a passive. Warden Healers will always give that. And then your Combat Prayer gives minor Resolve and minor Ward. So, like, little things, like, not super necessary, but sometimes it's just naturally always going to be a buff you give to.
In Major Resolve and Major Ward, that's coming from the Frost Cloak or whatever, or the Ice thing?
Frost Cloak, yes. Or Ice Fortress is the morph I think most people use.
Yes.
Yes.
And so that gives them 5k resistance.
Yes. Now, like, the tanks are naturally going to have that, but, like, DPS, most of the time don't run that. Like, I know, like, Sorks can get Lightning Form, and there are other things that can give you that as a DPS, but I don't think you guys usually prioritize that, because you just want to do damage.
Yeah, we usually don't run a source of major resolve, but I think most classes have access to one, but we don't have the bar space as DPS to put it on, so. And 5k resistance, I mean, that's like an extra 7-8% damage mitigation.
It's
I mean, that's
nice
a big
to have.
difference.
So like that's why a lot of people like not only do wardens give the only thing of toughness that this game has, but that Ice Fortress to give the protection and all the ward and resolve on top of combat pair, which is going to give the minor morphs of those or the minor buffs of those too. You're getting a sturdy group together.
So, question back on the resto staff skill, the Siphon Spirit or whatever. And so if you run that, why wouldn't you just run Elemental Susceptibility? Or, yeah, is that the other morph of Ellie Drain, the one that just refreshes itself?
So the one that
Because you want the minor...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me pull it up because I actually looked at that.
It doesn't have the minor life still.
It doesn't have the minor
But
magic.
usually... But if anybody in the group's running Blood Altar, then you're getting lifesteal, right?
So, no,
They don't stack.
No, weakness to elements is the original morph. Weakness or susceptibility to elements, whatever it's called, it doesn't give Magicka Steel at all. But it lasts forever, so it's literally just to give Major Breach.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It literally just gives Major Breach, but we have other things that are probably going to be doing that, and honestly, if you're giving it, you would want to give the Magicka Steel with it.
Okay, and that's okay, so that's why you're running. Okay, I got you.
Yes. Susceptibility, just like you cast it once and it's there forever, essentially. You never have to recast it.
Yeah.
But that's a no-cost skill, so why would you care about casting it?
Yeah. Well, because if you have two bosses jumping around and you're trying to stay alive, then
sometimes you forget. Yes, that is
exactly.
That is yes, that definitely happens. But in that case, and we probably still want the Magicka Steel on them though, so.
Oh, of
still
course.
Probably want Ellie Train on that case. We got on topic about buffs and debuffs. Let's go back to skills.
Yep. Okay, sorry.
No, good questions. These are all important. Templar skill that only Templars can give is Backlash Power of the Light, is the morph that we were going to use. That one gives minor Fracture and Breach, and that's one of the few things that gives minor Fraction and Breach. You can get it from breaching poisons and stuff, but that's something that is just a little extra penetration that a Templar can give the group. You're often going to want to run that as a Templar healer unless there is a stamina healer in the group.
Stamina Templar, not stamina healer.
My brain, man.
Don't get couch excited now.
Joe won't let me heal as a stamina healer. I've tried.
Oh, I had a Stam Ward just to mess with Joe, man. I was gonna do it too.
I did it. Got all the gear and everything. Alright, sorry, keep going.
It's okay. So another thing that Templars can give is the Illuminate passive, which is from the Dawn's Wrath ability. It gives minor sorcery, and it's the only skill that gives players minor sorcery in the game for 20 seconds. Anytime you activate Power of the Light or Vampire's Bane, you and your group get minor sorcery for 20 seconds. That's a lot of things that we don't talk about, but that is a buff that a Templar does give the group that other healing classes are not going to give. So, important. That's why you should use Power of the Light most of the time, but if a Stamplar is in the group, he will naturally give it anyway, because he's just using skills there, I think. Unless you guys don't put passive points in that. I don't have a Stamplar, I don't know what you do.
Stamplar would run Power of the Light.
Yeah, but
That's
I don't
part
know
of
if
the
you have...
rotation.
I don't know if you would have the Illuminate passive, though. Would you...
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
What is that? What is it under?
That's
It's under Dawn's Wrath.
Yeah.
Gives you third one down.
Third one down. It gives the group minor sorcery.
Yep.
And then the other thing that a Templar is unique to is the cleansing ritual. A good little hot, but it also has that beautiful purify synergy that we all love and want.
And up to 6 people can pop it, which is awesome.
It is fantastic, and we do love it. And that's why even on your Zen's MK where you have to prioritize heals, that's going to always be on there, because that's something that just you can give to your group. As for Wardens, we talked about Wardens can technically give Major Maim, but it's not something that a Warden healer is ever going to run, because they don't run Frozen Device. So that's not a buff that technically you utilize, but it's something you could
Well, and
give.
the MAME only works on smaller ads, like it wouldn't work on bosses.
That's true.
Because they have to activate it.
Yeah, they have to get pulled through. Major protection is something a warden healer could also give the group. That's not going to be pretty much used because we don't use permafrost. Permafrost is that sleet storm ultimate. We're not really running that as a healer, so that's something you could give. Probably not ever going to give, but you know, you have it in your toolkit for your brain. The most important one, the one we all talk about, Swarm. Fetcher infection for minor vulnerability. Now, we talked about this, and it's important for you all to know, it only, no matter which morph of Swarm you get, only the first target you hit gets minor vulnerability. If you have the stamina one that splits off to multiple targets, the multiple targets will not get the minor vulnerability. It's still only the first person you hit. So, the stamina morph is only if you want to keep your stam down for martial knowledge. That's not something I would say just get the stamina morph because you think it gives everyone minor vulnerability, because it does not.
I totally thought that.
I had to read it like 8 times.
Yeah, and I totally thought that's how it worked, and for the longest time I was using it, and I'm like, God, I never have fucking stam for anything. And then you told me all that, and I'm like, oh my God, I immediately went and changed the morph, and it's so much nicer.
Yeah, so like that's why I wanted to bring it up though, because I'm sure that's a misconception for a lot of people. So, just stamina morph does not give multiple targets minor vulnerability. Don't be fooled. It's tricksy.
I also had the incorrect morph for my Power of the Light forever on my
I did too, until Cage told me. I had Purifying Light for forever. Because why would I morph it to the stamina one? That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But it's just little things you don't think about until someone goes, hey, have you tried this though? So we talked about Ice Fortress. It gives major ward and resolve and also minor protection. It's got a great radius. And it lasts for what, like 20 seconds, 22 seconds, I think. Good little buff. That's something that you bring. That's not the only class that can bring that, but that is something that you bring in a such well-rounded area and give all 3 buffs at the same time. Healing Seed, in my case I use Budding Seed. That one is kind of like it's not a Purify, but it's a good little extra synergy hot that people with Alkosh and Lokestes can proc to give them a heal, but also to proc their sets. It's not necessarily that it gives a buff that other classes don't, it's just an extra heal that is a synergy as well.
So, do you ever use the other morph, the Corrupting Pollen?
I do use it in PvP, but it's not useful in PvE because you can't defile I don't think you, like, the healing received, are bosses really healing themselves?
No, but I saw on Nephis Discord somebody asked about it, and he put it on his like FAQs that why do Warden healers in some raid teams use Corrupting instead of Budding Seeds? And it says Corrupting Pollen morph is simply to give more synergies and to more effectively place synergies on the tank for Alkosh. You're also running Olo. You'll generally place 1 on group when you have an Olo proc up, and it's very easy to place 1 on the tank right after. Budding Seeds is extremely clucky and slow if you're trying to do this in comparison.
Yeah, so like...
I don't have a Warden healer, so I don't know.
So
it's
technically you have to double cast the other morph.
You don't have to double cast the other morph, actually.
Well, if you want to move it, though.
Yes,
if you want to move it.
So both Healing Seeds, the original and both morphs, you place down, and after like I'm not on my Warden, like 5 seconds.
Yeah,
or so,
6 seconds or something.
6 seconds, it will burst up and do a burst heal. With Corrupting Pollen, that's all it does. With Budding Seeds, that also has a hot. While it's building up, it's a heal over time, and then it bursts. And you can double cast that skill. The second cast will instantly make it burst immediately. So you can control when you actually get that burst heal on Budding.
Okay, gotcha.
But it also has a hot, which is why I prefer it, and I don't really need the Defile. But yes, I could see that if you're going to move it constantly, but even then, it's like only lasts 6 seconds, so I feel like you don't have to move it that much, because it's not there often, or long.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that seems extra as fuck.
Of course, the passive for minor toughness, maturation, I think, something like that. That's only something that wardens give. Literally, only a warden can give that toughness. That's why we want them in a group. Just a little extra thing to keep your health up, less damage. It's the fun stuff.
It's the same reason that, like, warden tanks should almost always be using Blood Altar. Because it's a free way to give everybody toughness.
Yes, it is. Now, a warden healer could also run Siphon Spirit, because it gives the Magicka Steel and the Life Steal. So you could have that and get both without having to run Blood Altar and Ellie Drain. You could just run that one skill. But again, if you need Breach in the group, you still want to run Ellie Drain. It's just one of those weird situations. If you have Major Breach, don't run Ellie Drain, get Siphon Spirit.
What's Breach do again? I know, I missed a lot.
No, you're good.
Reduces the spell resistance by 5,280.
Yes, so you
okay, so if you had like an all-stam group, then that wouldn't matter.
An all-stam group would matter if the tank is giving it. If
Major Fracture would be...
Yeah, if the tank is giving Breach, then you won't need Ellie Drain. If there is a Necromancer in group using Boneyard, you don't need Ellie Drain. There are several situations where you don't need Ellie Drain for the Breach, you're just using it for the Magicka Steel.
That's super interesting, Vitani, holy shit.
Oh, that's why I want to talk about it, because no one uses it.
like seriously, like, every Magcro uses Boneyard.
Yeah, so you don't.
So if you have Magcros in the group, then you don't need to be using Ellie Drain. You could use that other skill you're talking about.
Yeah, Siphon Spirit, which is the last skill of your Resto Staff. It's unmorphed. It's called Force Siphon. Once you morph it to Siphon Spirit, it gives Life Steal and Magic Steal. It lasts for 30 seconds, which is 7 seconds longer than Ellie Drain, and it still has no cost. So.
And they would have to be using the Unnerving Boneyard, not the Avid Boneyard.
Yes, that is true, because Avid Boneyard does not give the Breach.
Well, for a Magcro, an Avid Boneyard's only good for parsing. Like...
Yeah.
To activate, because you don't need to activate your synergy for Lokesties like Stam people do.
No.
Well, it's nice to have be able to pop a heal.
True, it's good for your, like, Undaunted Metal or whatever the fuck, but, like,
I forgot, it does heal for the damage done, doesn't it? I forgot about
Yep.
I don't use my Macro that often.
But the thing is, as a Magcro, you're usually playing in a ranged situation. Like, I noticed in VAS, I never have a chance to, like, run up and pop my own synergy. So I changed it to Avid Boneyard.
You forget my healer uses it.
Yeah, so well, that's what I'm saying. Like, my Necro healer has Siphon Spirit unlocked because I'm using Boneyard, so I don't need to use Ellie Drain.
And you can have it on your Resto instead of your Destruction bar, which is probably nice.
Yes, and it is a restoration skill, so it has to be on your Resto bar. So sometimes you might have to, like, I don't have it unlocked on my Templar. I probably won't use it on my Templar often, but I do have it on my Warden. It's unmorphed because I just got it, but I do have it on my Necro as well.
I guess I'm just... Can you say one more time what that skill all applies?
Yes, okay, so it's the last skill of the Restoration Staff. It's called Unmorphed. It's Force Siphon. The one you want is Siphon Spirit. It gives Magicka Steal and Life Steal, which is what you're using Ellie Drain for the Magicka Steal, and you're using Blood Altar for the Life Steal. So technically, you can get rid of 2 moves and use 1.
I see. That would... Okay, because that's something I struggle with a lot in my Warden, is, like, feeling like I don't have enough bar space for all the skills everybody wants me to use.
Exactly. That is, yes, exactly. And that's, again, this is going to be a situation. If you have Breach in the group, you don't need Ellie Drain, so use Force Siphon. But if you don't have Breach, Breach is something we definitely need in a Magicka group. So if you don't have it, Ellie Drain 100%. But if you do, that's just an option to help free up some bar space.
That would be a question to start asking, though, in Trials, when we have Magcros in the group, would be... what morph of Boneyard you guys using?
Yes, if you have Magcros, if you have a tank, ask what morph of, if they're using
Pierce Armor or Ransack.
Stuff like that. Now, mind you, because...
Which one gives that? Pierce Armor? Because that's what I was using.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
No, that's fine.
I used you as the example when I brought up this. I was like, when Naya's tanking, use this!
Yeah, because Warden tanks do not need to use Ransack.
Exactly.
I think you do lose you lose that ability to synergize though with the altar. But one of the neat things about it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, that was another thing I was gonna bring up. If you're just using blood, most of the trials we're just using blood altar to give the lifesteal, but like in VCR we need the blood altar for the synergy.
Yes,
that's super important. So
yeah. So what I was gonna say is too, and then we're static a lot of time in VCR, so it kind of makes sense that we have the altar there. But one cool thing about the Force Siphon, and one of the reasons I use it, is because there are some bosses, especially in dungeons and whatnot, where they're mobile. So that will always carry with them as you're following them or where they go. So as long as you
hit them, it works just like Ellie Drain. It's on them, so when you hit them, you get the lifesteal.
And it's free. That's the biggest thing. It's free.
No cost.
It's instant cast and free.
No cost, just like Ellie Drain.
Oh, wait a second though. Does that morph of that... Sorry, the siphon?
Mm-hmm.
Does it give magicka back to people? Because that's the biggest complaint I hear.
Yes.
Okay.
It gives only that morph that I said though, Siphon Spirit's the only morph that gives the magicka steel. So you want the magicka steel, you want this force or the Siphon Spirit morph. Because it gives magicka steel and
it does give it to the entire group when you
yes.
have it applied.
So how that works is those steels, they are applied to the boss, and whoever's hitting them is the one that's getting the effect.
Okay.
And it used to be, it was only 2 patches ago they changed it, for instance. It used to be that there was a long-ass cast time on it, so people wouldn't use it because it's like, well, the Blood Altar is just an instant cast, and this thing takes over a second to cast, and I need to be healing during that time. Now that they made it an instant cast, it kind of makes sense to apply in some situations based on group.
Yeah, and again, it's just like one of those skills that no one talks about because we've never had an opportunity to really use it before. But with our group comps now, that is something that we could, to free up bar space, use. But I mean, if you have 2 flex spots, you could just use Blood Altar and Ellie Drain. It's not like gonna hurt, I guess, technically.
No, I can see that being like super useful for Warden Healer because like, you're expected to run so many different skills because you're compensating for your Templar healer that's in Martial Knowledge and Zens.
Yeah.
So, like, you're expected to run, like, so many skills that sometimes I'm like, okay, well, what do I sacrifice this time for these skills? Because, like, you just don't have enough bar space to run everything you'd like to. And I can see that being extremely helpful.
So the lifesteal, only one of those can affect the boss, right? So if another support person, if a tank's running Blood Altar, then the lifesteal's covered, correct? Or
correct.
Is that how it works?
Yes, that is correct. Lifesteal, and like with Blood Altar is an area lifesteal. So like mob groups, everyone would have lifesteal on all those ads. Like this one is going to be like a solo, you just target the one. But yes, it doesn't override, it doesn't stack. So if the Blood Altar's on the boss, you don't need Siphon on the boss too.
Yeah, got you. Just like you wouldn't need Breach on the boss. It's already on there. Now, kind of a weird question, or kind of a off topic. Does Overflowing Altar and Sanguine Altar, do they have different cooldowns for synergies or no?
They don't have different synergy cooldowns. The only difference is how much it heals for. And the
how much it heals for and how much they last, and how long they last yet.
Yeah, and
just wanted to make sure.
Too. Yeah. So we went over Fletcher's Fortress, Ceilings, Maturation, so Necro skills, because Scott's here and I'm a Necro healer and I want to talk about Necros. So for Necros, what's things that only Necros can bring to the group? Let's talk about Frozen Colossus. Major vulnerability. Sure. Now again, this is one of those things that after talked about, War Horns, depending on your group comp, are important over your Frozen Colossus. But if you only have like 2 Necros in group, probably a 3rd Necro's good. If you have no Necros in group, put your Necro down. It's definitely one of those group comps though, because like Fitz did like some crazy math for me one day. The force from Warhorn is better than the major vulnerability for that like 3 seconds, but only in a situation where you're getting it often. So if you're not, use your Necro. Boneyard, as we've talked about, unnerving Boneyard. It's one of the only few debuffs. What am I trying to say? It's the only thing that gives
AoE,
breach.
Major Fracture, and Breach.
Yes,
and an
the
AoE.
only move that does that, and it's so you can literally, instead of the tank having to poke every single ad in VCR, you just pop it on them and they're all debuffed. It's beautiful, love it. And I do use unnerving because I want the breach and the fracture. So.
Yep.
Question.
Yes.
Do you see like necro healers becoming more popular? Because okay, here's something that something that came to my attention. Is like Fitz got on his warden tank, and he's like, "What the fuck do I do? Like, there's nothing for me to do." You know, because he's used to Stone Fist all the time or whatever with his DK. You know, so he's always adding that extra bit of help to the group. And like as a warden tank, like I hold the boss and I live.
Yes.
Because there's always a warden healer in the group.
Yes.
And so, like, I lose that extra bit of functionality that I would have as a warden tank because we always require a warden healer. So, like, what if if I'm tanking, like, why don't we, like, make it, oh, there's a warden tank, let's have a necro healer.
Yeah,
and a Templar healer.
I've tried to bring that, because, like, me personally, it's so hard for me to get into the harder stuff with my Necro. Like, I actually have to, like, ask Fitz, like, 2 days before. I'm like, hey, Fitz, I really would like to bring my Necro healer into this trial today. Could we maybe make a Warden come? Like, it's because, like, Wardens give minor protection, so do Necros. Wardens give minor vulnerability, so do Necros. But Wardens have such, like, again, like, their minor protection the Wardens give also give Resolve and Ward. So there's 2 extra buffs that they're giving that a Necro can't make up for. And with the minor vulnerability, technically our minor vulnerability comes from a synergy which has a cooldown, and people don't always proc synergies even though they should. And our lightning staffs and our lightning enchants should make up for the downtime. But
well, the Asylum should also make up for the downtime because concussion from the Asylum Inferno after 2 Force Pulses is the same thing.
Yes, it should. But when people are talking about it, they're like, oh, but someone could not activate your synergy. I would rather have flies up and know it's actually up. It is definitely one of those things where it's outclassed. It's not that it can't give the things that the other ones do, per se. It's just, it's a little bit more complicated.
Wardens just do it better.
Well,
yes.
Well, I don't even know if it's that. I think it's because the Warden DPS is so bad that we don't ever have Wardens in the group, and so we always have a couple of Necros. Otherwise, I think that you would see more Necro healers.
Hey, bite your tongue, young man. Warden DPS is great. No, I was reading about it on Nephis, and it was kind of like, I think Zoss, this is what they were saying. I think it was Asian God who put up the video for it. So what Zoss did was made the group composition more important. So they really did make the Necros kind of the meta damage dealers, especially with the Colossus and everything. And then of course, now you want all those other roles as support. So since you already have the Necros as damage dealers, at least you should in a group, now your support roles are basically your Templars and Wardens and Dragon Knights. And at least that was according to them, that if you create the group composition correctly. But Vitani, I'm going to go back to you with the Necro Healer. I think it's great. I mean, it might not give every little thing a Warden does, but you got a lot of really neat skills, and really it's about the player too, just knowing the content. So
well, even with that, one thing that Necros can bring that I feel like a Warden does fall short of is burst. A Necro, and despite what people think, Necros have fantastic heals. My Templar has my highest heal, my highest breath of life was just short of 40k, and I haven't beaten it, but I've matched it on my Necro. I have the burst a Templar does, but I also have a lot of stuff that the Warden does. It's just a matter of sometimes, because of group comp, we can't use it, but with a Warden tank, yes, I feel like a Necro healer should be something that should be brought.
So, like, if there's a warden, because this is something I want to try and figure out, I guess, because, like, especially when I get used to tanking something, holy shit, do I get bored. Like, so, like, and I never get to slot my bugs, because why would I when we always have a warden healer, you know? So, like, I'm wondering, like, if, you know, if we know I'm tanking, if we can then change the comp to be, okay, we need 1 Templar, 1 Necro, instead of the Templar Warden.
And honestly,
Absolutely.
yeah, and for real, like
It'd be better.
Yeah, anything like a VHOF where like there's a lot of AoE damage, they're like everyone's getting damaged all the time. Necro's got that good area burst heal. They've got a good, like, you can do the oh Scott, you're gonna have to
They have the AoE purge, the renewing undeath, consume a course to immediately remove up to 3 negative effects.
Now, here's the thing on that, and I hope maybe you could ask Nephis or like one of your cool fancy discords. It doesn't specify who gets that purge. Is it the person casting it, or is it the person in the heal? It never specifies.
It says to immediately remove up to 3 negative effects and continue to heal you and your allies in the area for 366 health over 5 seconds.
Yeah, so like that's like one of those things where it's like I was unsure. Like it purged me, but like I could never check was it purging other people. And like honestly,
Well, in the beginning it says release residual fragment at the target location, healing you and your allies for 4703 health. So since it says you and your allies in both places, but I would assume I could be wrong.
It's just like one
Sounds
of those
like-
things where
it
it didn't specify. It didn't say it goes to your group. It just says it purges. So like, because like you know Betty Netch purges, but it only purges you. So like it's just like one of those things. Is it only purging me? Because then it's not useful. That's why I don't use the purge for the Necro, because it's only purging
The
me.
hexproof is only yourself. I can't imagine both of them being only yourself, especially since this one's an AoE.
Yes. And now, and with this one, like, I like both morphs, and I've used both morphs of that. One is purgeable, one is lasting for frickin' 30 seconds. So it depends on what you need to. So. It's a good, and it's a burst heal before. It's a burst heal, then becomes a hot, which I love.
Maybe that should be something that you get into Joe's ear about.
Yeah, I can talk to. I talked to him about that kind of stuff.
Don't you think that that would be the best benefit if?
Well,
I mean,
yeah, I've seen
like,
more and more
as a
necro
tank,
healers.
Yeah, because like as a tank, like I can provide the same specialized buffs that a warden healer can. So, like, I don't like when there's another warden healer in the group. I'm just kind of like, okay, I'll just poke and block.
I will do nothing now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because like I don't have much else I can really do because
I will
it's already
survive.
done.
It definitely makes more sense to have another necro in the group, as long because you want to have at least 3 Colossus if possible, and then the 4th is when it becomes Warhorn's probably better than doing another Colossus because of the cooldown. But getting to 3 Colossus is kind of where you want to be. So yeah, it'd be nice to have.
Because I
But
thought
I'll
about
talk to
making
Joe
a
about
necro healer, but my fear is never getting to use it.
Yeah, and that's again, it's gonna be like group comp. If there's a warden tank, yeah. Yes. So we don't mention that, Scott. That's a forbidden language. But yes, for learning groups, that's fantastic. No one ever wants us to talk about it. But if you're learning a damn, or like even sometimes like that last boss of a score run in VAA or VHOF and everyone dies, boom. They back again.
Right? Like, okay, so when we did get our clear in VAS 2, probably wouldn't have happened if me and Scott weren't using our res. Or Scott, you weren't there. Okay, but
Nope. I
you
was
were
at
there
work.
for the other times. But anyway, like it probably wouldn't have happened if we didn't have that res. I have not been slotting it during our prog because I don't think that it would be acceptable if I got someone up like that. But like,
I use it sometimes.
You do, because I
like,
get it sometimes.
well, because the tank, is dead or whatever, and like, just get back up so we can keep practicing kind of shit, like, instead of the whole group wiping because we can't get the tank back up. Like, that was kind of like my mindset there, but like, when we first started progging it, like, Fitz was like, nope, you better double slot that Atro. I'm like, okay.
That was my thing. That's the thing with like healers. Like, when is it better for martial knowledge and Zens versus like martial knowledge and Gosmer? Like, at what point is it I need to keep you alive versus I need to help you do DPS? and for some reason that Res Ultimate, that doesn't get described as much as like Gosmer does, which I don't like.
The most difficult part of the Necro Ultimate is the cost. It costs 350, and so by the time you get to that point, you should have already dropped your Colossus, and so that's why. I mean, in boss it kind of makes sense because you can only drop your Colossus in so many times because of the protectors and whatever else. So my ultimate does build up quite a bit, but it seems like every time I need the res ultimates right after I use a Colossus. The other thing I was going to say was that, I did message Joe after our Prog Friday night saying that we need to try at least one pull using Ice Heart. Because he was saying that we're having issues with damage on the minis, and I'm like, the issue with the damage on the minis isn't our DPS, it's people are dead, so we're having to res them, we're dying too much, and it's me as much as anybody else. We gotta stay alive, and so us running Slime Crawl, yes, it's nice for when we're alive, but
the thing is, I promise you, the more that you play without Ice Heart, though, it will make a difference.
Yeah, I mean,
We all just need more practice. I do kind of feel like maybe we need to stick to the +1s a little bit longer so people can really get the kiting down. Because that's what people are dying to.
Subs. Really?
Yeah, we keep getting the subs in there. So one thing with the +2, are we okay with talking about this, Vitani?
Yeah, I'm fine. Unless
we're supposed to be doing healer,
do you have time? Like, I know you were kind of crunching it.
Yeah, I got about another 15 minutes or so.
Okay.
I do have one quick healer thing to add in that really helped me with the Zens, by the way. And I put it in the group chat. Bash weaving. If you got martial knowledge and Zens, I can't tell you how easy it is to keep everything up with just bash weaving during your Destro skills.
So, except, what if you're too far away from the boss?
Oh, well, of course you're going to have to, if that's the case. But like if you're in VSS and you're up next to those dragons,
I can't.
I'm telling you, the bash weaving keeps it up all the time.
Do you dodge roll and like sprint? Because I've been trying to work that out.
So,
I must have missed you guys talk about all that.
In VSS, shouldn't you be using Barb Traps as one of your dots since it lasts 18 seconds?
So here's.
I mean, that'll drain stamina.
Yeah,
no,
Barb Trap is a dot you could use that drains stamina and it lasts long. But here's the thing, I'm not close enough to the dragon in VSS to bash weave. I'm not. I have to stay on the tank who's like, I have to stay on the tank who's like super far away. I am not close enough to bash weave, which is why I have to have Power of the Light or Bone Shield. I do when like we're anything that I'm close to. I just bash to get my stamina down because it's so much easier because I don't have anything into bash reduction. So like it costs so much and I'm instantly down. When we're doing VSS, I run in a circle before every pull to get my stamina down so I don't pull the boss, but I have it down to instantly apply martial knowledge as soon as we pull.
Yeah, and if you roll twice, you'll get dodge roll fatigue for the second one, and you should be at half stamina after that.
Yes. And
you can do that. I was just saying for me, because in VSS, so let's say the dragon's there, breathing fire that way, and I'm standing over here, I would just kind of aim towards the group and aim towards the tank, and then my dots, if I'm attacking this way, would still hit the dragon, and it would hit the group, and it would hit the tank, and it would allow me to bash weave and cause full damage while being able to save anybody with both conal AoEs, like a Breath of Life if I needed to.
That's definitely a thing, but like I've never bash weaved, so like I can't, like I will spam bash to get my stamina down really quick. I don't bash weave. I can't even light attack weave. So like that for me isn't something that I probably will do. But yes, I mean bash weaving is technically a thing, and DPS do it sometimes, but that's a can you do it?
I do it on my
ask
stand
about
bar.
boss blind?
Okay, so Yeah, I messaged Fitz because I didn't want to put it in the general because it's kind of Fitz trial, so I just ran an idea by him. But with those minis, we're having to pull DPS off of the minis anyways to get them down. So my thought is, why not focus them down when they first come out to 75%, let the cleave damage get rid of them, and then if we need to and there's an emergency, there'll already be an execute we can pull off and we can kill them right away. But I think he wants it done the traditional way, and like you were mentioning with Iceheart, I think that trial is so forgiving if you just take it a little slowly at first that we probably could do Iceheart to stay alive and just make sure that we're keeping everything down. And then as we get better at it, of course, when we want to score push, slime crawl. But
well, and I agree with Arthi that it is a crutch and that it is a bad habit to get into. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Do we use it? Do we not?
Yes. Like when I first started doing VAS plus, I died all the fucking time to everything, all the time, and even when wearing Iceheart, dead, But I'm like, okay, I'm finally to where I want to learn to do this with doing more damage. I want to do more damage. And so I was happy to hear that he wanted us to go straight slime crawl or whatever first. And the thing is, yes, people are dying. But each time you die, you need to learn from it. Why did I die? What can I do next time? What am I messing up? That's why these POVs are so freaking important, and literally nobody's submitting them.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I spent 2.5 hours watching POVs this morning and sent the notes to Joe and Fitz.
Yeah,
I still need to upload it, but yeah, I looked at everything.
I'm really shitty at it. I'm really bad. I don't know what's what, but I just record like little chunks here and there, and then I put them all in one video and I send them off. You don't have to have them public. You can like DM them to Joe or Fitz. Like really, especially if you find yourself on the floor a lot, like people,
you
don't know if it's just people need to be submitting POVs if they're struggling, because you don't know if it's just one little thing that you can do different that'll change the whole freaking game.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Something I noticed for watching mine from Friday night was that I died 2 or 3 times from other people's cones when I was trying to dodge roll out of them. Like I'd see the cone, I'd dodge roll out of it, and halfway through my dodge roll, I'd die. Then I realized if I just block first for the cone, let the first wave go, and then dodge roll, we live. I live.
Right.
Because you can totally still stand in it and block,
right? You can block one time, and then you can dodge roll out because the second dot doesn't come till 2 seconds later.
I've actually stood in someone else's cone the whole time and lived. You can shield through it. You're fine.
And so
if it's too dangerous to be moving around too much, like just block with them and you can live through it. But it's like, we have all these people that show up and like, I don't know, because it sucks to be like, let's make POVs mandatory. Because like that sucks.
Yeah, I mean it does suck uploading them all. Well, and another thing I noticed was, we're not bad at kiting, we're bad at the beginning of kites. When kites start, we're all grouped up together on one side, or we're all too close to each other, and then you get 2 or 3 stacks of the lightning on you, and that's when it seems to be like we're dying. And so we need to pay attention to when kites start.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a protectors if we're going
sometimes it's the protector, sometimes it's the minis, sometimes it's Olms. It's just our positioning. We're getting focused on one thing, and then we all group up together, then kite starts, and if you get 3 of the lightnings, which 3 people standing next to each other, you die. And so it's killing too many people.
I mean, I'd hate to say it, from a strategy perspective, if you're thinking about like army on a battlefield, if there's left protectors, I know this is going to sound totally confusing, I'm sorry. If there's left protectors, everybody should have like different kiting lanes and be in a different arrangement. If there's right protectors, I mean, that would be kind of like your general strategy.
You kind of do. You just gotta find that spot. Like a lot of kiting, like especially when the interrupters have to run all over the fucking place and stuff. Like people have to realize that they're not going to be able to have their perfect kiting lane every time.
Yep.
And
So you gotta be able to adjust.
How to adjust and react to that kite depending on what's going on. Like, half the time I've got spits, I've got AoEs, I've got all sorts of shit going on in my lane, and I have to kite around that and then also make sure I'm not kiting on top of Sweetheart. So it's like, it's just thinking ahead of what you're doing rather than just like, I'm gonna kite the same direction I always do. You know, like, you gotta be able to... Yeah,
that person needs to realize what you're dealing with and be able to adjust based on that, but also be able to adjust based on the person on their other side, because they might have a poison cone next to them, or they might have the poison AoE that he drops, and we do need to have somebody else running Purge in the group, like CJ or an Interrupter running Purge for cleansing the lightnings or cleansing the poison dots or something, I think.
Yes.
Make a big difference.
To add to that, real quick, the reason why, like, you're talking about Ice Heart, we're talking about adding an extra purge. The reason why Fitz and like some other people are against this, you got to remember, half of our group already has their skins, but they completed it in a way they weren't happy with. So that's why I think we're getting pushed to be like, well, I want to do it the right way this time. But they already have their skins, and then there's people like me who's like, well, I would be okay if, you know, we weren't
just got
Yeah, but you want to feel like, I have my skin, but am I proud of it? No. I'm not.
Well, in one of the other guilds I'm in,
feel proud when we're done with this. I want to feel like we did everything the way that we should have, instead of depending on crutches or barrier rotations and shit like that. You know what I mean? To get through shit.
And that's why they're like that, though.
But something, I don't know if you're doing this, Fatani, like, when you have your free moments to move around and, like, come in and, like, blow Warhorn and stuff, like, especially during the fire phase, are you dropping your ritual on the boss's butt?
Well, we never got to execute on +2, but +1s, I was getting closer. On +2s, I don't have time to run up, even give my ritual to Fitz half the time.
Okay. See, I don't know how complicated all that is, but I'm sure once you get more comfortable, that's going to be something that we'll be seeing more, is, like, having that ritual on her butt, because I know that's something that, like, Pepper really focused on when she was front kiting, was she would always say, everybody get close to the boss, I have a ritual down. Come purge.
Yeah, so, like, I put my ritual on Fitz, or Dan, whoever's tanking, during +1s, because I can. I have so much time to run around, and I can Warhorn so much. I'm having to use my Resto ultimate a lot when we're doing +2s, because I'm getting too much on me, and, like, last night, there was just some things going on where the boss was getting too close with the steam breaths and stuff. I was getting my armor shattered all the time. So, like, it's rougher, but as I get better, yes, I will try to do that. It's just, right now I'm not doing it, but we're also not getting to execute right now, so...
Yeah.
Well, and the reason I brought up the cleansing ritual on an Interrupter, because the other guild that I'm in, they just got the IR. They did it a couple of times, and their Interrupter's a Magcrow, and he runs Efficient Purge, whatever it's called. He runs it on both bars. And he's the Interrupter. And I mean, he's really good, so I mean, yes, they're using Ice Heart, but I don't think those are crutches. I mean, if they're...
I think if you're an Interrupter, if you're in a position like that, I think that like things like Ice Heart are important, because you're the one who should not be dying.
Yeah, but basically what he was doing is, after each kite, when he came in, he would pop Purge. And then that way everybody's grouped up and they got cleansed. If they got hit with the lightning, or they got hit with a couple lightning, they got purged. Or because what I'm noticing is, when we're grouped up and get hit by kiting a couple times, and then something else happens, a bacon wave comes or something, and we're at half health, and then we die. But if we get that purge, the lightning gets off, then the hots hit us, and we heal up faster. Or if we get hit by the poison cone, and we have Defile on us, and that gets purged off. And just having someone to be able to purge so the healers can focus on Felms, jumps, I think would help. Just a thought, though.
Yeah, I mean, it also kind of makes sense that, like, the Sork would be Interrupter too. If I should probably drop a pet and start running, what the hell is that skill called? The lightning one that gives me that we were just talking about, Vitani, that gives me the resolve. That way I can have resolve on me. Boundless Storm. I'm faster and I have resolve. I mean, that would be huge for an Interrupter.
On your POV blind, were you wearing a monster set?
Yeah, I had Slime Craw on. So
Why did you also have Camouflage Hunter front barred?
Oh no. Okay, so yeah, during the POV, I tried running Ice Heart. So when I switched to Ice Heart, I have Camo Hunter. When I have Slime Craw, I don't have Camo Hunter there. I think I dropped my pets and added Camo Hunter and Ice Heart because I don't know if you noticed. At first, I was dying quite a bit, and then as soon as I put that on, I was not. I mean, I would never die. I was.
When was your POV from? Which night?
I think that was from the second night. Yeah, because
CJ
said
I wasn't there Saturday night.
Yeah, CJ messaged me and said, "Hey, dude, you don't want big dick DPS for this one. You know, if we're interrupting, don't die." I was like, "Okay, I agree with you."
Well, and I saw you had on Crit Surge on there, which you can run Boundless Storm, and Boundless Storm actually does decent DPS if you're close enough for it to do damage, and you get that 5,000 major resolve. Because I usually don't run a heal.
Yeah, I love Crit Surge because what it lets me do is, you know, I usually would do like Degeneration and Inner Light, and then just run.
Well, yeah, I saw you didn't use any potions.
And then so I would have Crit Potions is what I would, if I needed it, what I'd run when I had magic. And so if I did Crit Surge, that would give me that major sorcery, and then I wouldn't need Inner Light because just the cheaper potion that didn't need the Cornflower would give me that, what is it called, the 2-1. You know what I'm talking about.
I got you. Yeah, I pop potions the whole time.
I'm
yeah,
nope.
I'm not gonna start like popping potions like I'm doing a fucking dummy hump until we are getting close.
I do.
There's no way.
That's all I spend my gold on.
Yeah, I've got
Doesn't bother me.
I got like 15 characters, healers, tanks, freaking DPS. Like I can't afford that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Cornflower is fucking expensive.
Yes, it is.
Yo.
Well,
alright, I gotta head out.
Alright, we'll see ya.
Thank y'all.
I heard they're selling the potions in Cyrodiil in the new patch.
Yes.
So
they
are.
They'll be.
That's gonna be nice.
That'll be a game changer. Because I think it's super inconvenient. Like, why do I just feel like there's like a complete imbalance. Like, okay, you make a Stam character. Okay, I gotta do a little PvP so I can get vigor. Ooh, you know? And then, like, you make a Magicka character and, like, oh, I've gotta do Mage's Guild. I've gotta do Psijic Order. I've gotta do PvP. Oh, and also, my potions cost like $1 million fucking dollars. So, like, I think it's, like, totally fucking, like, imbalanced. Like, it makes me want to play Stam for everything. Because, like, when you make a new Magicka character, it's like a full-ass investment. Like, in a sense.
Yes. I'm with you 100%.
They need to do something to kind of, like, mitigate that, I feel like. And hopefully this is kind of a step in the right direction. Either that or they need to up the drop rates of Cornflower.
Well, it was nice that they actually let us purchase those lines on, like, the Magicka classes. So, like, if I have a Magicka class I'm really going to turn into a main, okay, I can use the crowns to get the Psijic line or, you know, whatever you need.
Right, but you don't have to do any of that shit with a Stam character, which I think is kind of bullshit. Like...
you're dead right. You're right. You go into PvP and get to level 5, which is as easy as pi. You know,
I can understand that, but with Stam characters up close, so you can always just drop your trap. But with Magicka, kind of can be ranged, so there's no reason for you to be on the boss.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, it's just the Mage's Guild, the Psijic Order, the fucking
oh my god, you have
Vampirism, the bullshit. It's just like you have to have like every fucking skill line, and that's what I mean. Like a Magic character is like a full ass investment, and then it continues to be so for the cost of freaking potions.
Right.
So,
what do you do for Stam? Fighters Guild, easy to get. You need what's that other one? Well, just Fighters Guild is basically the main guild one you need.
Literally
it's not like you need the
Fighters Guild and a little bit of PvP.
Imagine if they put Ledgerman. Imagine if they said for Stam, hey, you need Ledgerman like Class 8.
Oh,
I mean, people that would you know. Then we're talking like with that damn lore book hunt for the Mage's Guild, you know, Ledgerman.
No, he's just using that. He's just using that as
like if they did, like that would be like some sort of balance to like have them have to do Ledgerman. You have to.
I mean, I'm not
800
complaining.
things.
Like, I like how easy it is for me to decide to try out a Stam character, but if like I have like a mag blade that I'll probably never fucking use for anything, but I'm not gonna delete it because I bought fucking Mage's Guild on it.
Yep. Me too.
And I spent hours farming Psijic Order.
Yep.
So it's like, you know, and you have to have all those things even to begin parsing, and it's just like, fucking it up.
You're wasting potions on a complicated rotation that you're sucking at, and you're getting frustrated, and then you're out of potions, and then you gotta go buy stuff, and then you broke, and you sad.
And then you don't even want to use the character, and then it's like, I'm not even going to use this class. You know.
I just want to say though, like, I totally disagree with giving everybody the option to wear Ice Heart in our prog. What it really is people just need to work on kiting more and dealing with the oh my god, Dylan, shut off your alarm. But
I'm with you. I'm with you 100% there too. I mean, it's like,
and a lot of it won't come full circle until we get more practice, and that's just really what it is. Because like before we started the Prog and Federation, I had been doing VAS for months. For months.
Right.
And that's the only reason that I feel 110% comfortable not wearing Ice Heart. Because I've had to deal with every fucking different situation on the frickin' planet coming at me and how to live through it. And so it's just that. It's just everybody needs the chance and the time to get that kind of experience dealing with the different things that can happen in the fight in order to live through it.
Now, if people are using Force Pulse, so correct me if I'm wrong here, shouldn't anytime the mini come into the middle, shouldn't we always focus the mini? Because won't the Force Pulse, if it's off balance, be knocked off to the main boss? And then the main boss has the shield on it, so while they're alive, I mean, I'm thinking that cleave damage could, if we more focus them, wouldn't it be beneficial to get them down? Because it seems like we die a lot to them enraging or.
Yeah, that's definitely a more of a talk to Fitz, because that's.
I think our problem right now is a lack of clarity and understanding of what to focus when. And that's why I kept bringing it up last night. I'm like, I think we need to go over this again. I think we need to go over this again. Because even when Fitz is like, okay, focus Felms, people were still attacking Protectors when he was up front. And so it's just, I think all that is like, we just need to add that clarity, and even if we have to dumb it down, like, give people more explanations, give examples, whatever we gotta do to make people understand what to focus and when to focus it will make a big difference. Because, like, even last night after Fitz had explained it like the first time, there's people still just DPSing the wrong things. And, even after he explained it again, it was still happening. So I think, like, just some more clarity there will make a big difference. Because like, when you have even just a few people turning and DPSing the incorrect thing, then that's that much, you know, like 70k DPS per person that's going in the wrong direction.
And I think a lot of it's what we just talked about too with the kiting lanes. As soon as people, I think, get comfortable not dying.
Wait, do we have any more healer questions so I can stop my stream and we can just talk about VAS?
Oh, yeah, stop your stream.
No, I'm done.
Any questions? Did you, like, Burt? Because, like, I had a few other things, but they weren't super important, like burst heals.
Like,
I think we should know what a class burst heal is, but, like, if you didn't, I had, like, examples. Do you guys?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm not sure what you guys all talked about before I got here, because, like, yeah, I was kind of watching your stream, but I was also raking the yard and,
yeah.
Doing other things.
I'll give you some claps to show you some bursts. Look, he looks like he's dancing.
Like, so I guess the one last question I have is, what is your preferred way to keep your stam down for your martial knowledge? Because, like, I find myself just doing this all over the place.
So, like, before, like, if we're going into the boss fight, I dodge roll twice, and then I just power the light, man. If it gets above, because, like, here's my problem with martial knowledge. I'm an Argonian. My potion,
oh, you eat a potion.
Every single potion is a tri-stat potion, whether it's tri-stat or not. I always get my stamina back to, like, 80 every time. If I'm 0, my stamina goes back to 75% after drinking a potion. It's a pain in the ass for Argonians. but I just literally will spam Power of the Light, Bone Shield, Ring of Preservation until it gets back down to where I can manage it like 20%. And once it's at 20%, I can, if like 20% for me, that's where like I just do a Power of the Light when it stops, and it won't go back up until I drink another frickin' potion. And then I have to spam something.
Yeah, another thing I noticed is like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing all that to like, you know, keep my stam down so that my martial knowledge is going, and then oh shit, something stunned me, I can't get up.
Ah, yeah. So another.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes. And that is a problem. Stuns. That's why we suggest Bone Shield and Power of the Light over Ring of Preservation, because Ring of Preservation costs so much. You're dipping so low in your mat or stam pool. Like, I try to keep around 20%, which for me I think is like.
Okay, I don't even have either of those things slotted right now.
Oh.
I have Blockade, what is it, the Reach thing, this Power of the Light, Vampire's Bane, and then Healing Springs, Degen, Combat Prayer, Soul Trap, and Orb.
Yes, okay, those are fine. Power of the Light, like, I'm just saying, like, if, like, I will take Power of the Light off on that's my bar that I have, if there's a Stamplar in the group and I put Bone Shield on.
Okay.
Like, and
so that's why you would, in that situation, you would rather use Bone Shield over the, whatever, the circle thing.
Yes, the Ring of Preservation, yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, so keeping it down, and I imagine martial knowledge is probably a lot easier on people who aren't Argonian, because it makes me sad that I have to, like, every now and again we'll be in just anywhere, and then I'll just sit there and spam Power of the Light, and I'm like, they think I'm dumb. Look at them, they probably see me spamming this skill. It's just because I popped a potion.
Okay, yeah, that's how I feel too, because I've thought about that. I'm like, you know, I could just sit here and like spam this, and I might be able to manage it easier, but I can't tell if everybody's gonna think I'm an idiot.
Yep, that's me. I just live with the idiot thing, man. I'm just like, yep, I'm dumb.
Because, like, okay, I feel a lot more confident using Zens. It's just, like, how to do all my Zens, and then, like, making sure my stam's low enough, and then, you know. So, I mean, I just need a lot more practice still.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not the best at it either. Like, and Couch brought up a good point, like, and it's a great point, and I still don't do it, and it's just because sometimes you don't do things. I probably should just one-bar Zens instead of one-bar martial knowledge. That would be easier, because then I would...
That's how I have it.
Yeah.
I'm wearing martial knowledge on body and then Zen's weapons and jewelry. That's just because that's what I happen to have.
Yeah.
And
like,
I think I like it that way, and that's how Style Anima was talking about it.
Yeah,
so,
that's what it is, because, like, I one-bar Zens, but...
Well, because your Zen debuff thingy lasts so freaking long that, like, by the time that you, like, you know, do all the stuff on your front bar and all that kind of crap, like, you still have plenty of time to get to your back bar and light attack and get it going again.
Yes, and that's one-barring Zens makes sense. I don't do that. I one-bar martial knowledge, and I shouldn't. But...
Well, and it's 10 seconds.
Well,
your dots are at minimum 10 seconds, so it's, you know, you can...
Yeah,
you have time.
Yeah, plenty of time.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of managing it and stuff. It's just like...
Did you talk to anybody about overhealing, turning your overhealing on, Watani?
No, but I love it, by the way. That's still my... Oh, one thing
I have mine on already. I already have it on.
I love my over... That's how I have my 40k ticks of heals, because I have my overhealing on. But,
What
that's how I know
overhealing?
that I'm... it's an option... Ooh, turn it on, blind. You're gonna love
go
it.
to options, and then...
It's in combat.
Combat, and then...
It's like all the way at the frickin' bottom,
so under
right above
combat
buffs and debuffs.
It's the last thing, and it's show overhealing. So even when it targets full health, you'll still see how much heals you're giving them.
I have permanent effects. What are you talking about?
No, so like in combat,
Oh.
You see it?
Show overhealing. That's off. Okay.
Do it. So
Yeah,
now
turn it on and then
on.
turn it on and then throw healing springs down.
see, now you can see when your heals are working, because even when people are at full health, you can actually see it's still happening.
Oh, that's nice.
It's fantastic. Yes. It's the best thing that's ever happened. She told me when we were doing our VCR prog, and it was the best.
Yeah, I'm looking. That's why when I watched your video, I'm like, How the fuck is she healing all those people like that? They're not even.
Yes, I have my overhealing on so I can see who's actually getting my heals. Like,
Right, okay.
I want to see where they're hitting. Because, like...
It's the same reason I keep my combat text on with my tank, to make sure that inner fire reaches the ad I wanted it to. Because you get that little bit of numbers above his head. It's just to make to know that you're healing people, like, or that your shit's hitting people.
Yeah, like when you're in dungeons, like, it's hard to see your healing AoEs, because, like, you know, like, anything. Like with Navintus, when he goes gold, you can't see your springs and that the whole.
Oh my god! This is now. This is why you're known for that comment then, of telling people to get into your heels.
Yeah, because I can see them. I can see them when they're not standing in my shit. So I get the hell out of them. Like, you're not standing over here right now.
Yeah, it was actually.
I can't cheat anymore. Okay.
It was actually a requirement of Night Machine when I was in there that, like, if you wanted to heal for them, you had to submit a video of you healing any vet trial, but with your overhealing showing, so that they can see what kind of heals you're actually putting out. You know, to make sure that you're not like putting out a bunch of like 200 heals because your stats are retarded, like.
And so, like,
so that you could really display like how much heals you're putting out, while also like watching your functionality and your debuffs and buffs and whatever.
So, like, as we're talking right now, Blind, you only have 11.9k health. Without overhealing on, the strongest heal is only going to be 11.9. With your overhealing on, though, you can see how much you actually healed them, or what was your real heal just then. And, like, that's how I've gotten like 40k Breath of Life, because no tank has 40k health. I've just seen what it actually did for them.
Yeah, that's how I know that I heal for 60k when Zamaja hits me with her heavy attack on my tank. So like if you're using Shimmering Shield, yeah. So when you're using Shimmering Shield in VCR as a Warden tank, when Zamaja heavy attacks you, like when it hits your shield, it heals you for 60k instead of doing any damage whatsoever.
Alright, hang on. I'll help you out one. Wait, stop healing. Stop healing. Templars have buffs, so you have less health. So there, heal me now.
Yeah.
So you heal better when you have less health.
And then the little numbers that are popping up next to you, like to the right of you, that's how much you're being healed for.
Oh, okay. So that rolling number. Yeah.
That's you right now.
Okay. What I like is I'm seeing a lot of exclamation points, so I'm doing a lot of crits. But I have the thief on, so it's gonna do that.
And that's good, like, so you could like see your practicality with like Hollow Fang and stuff. Like, like right now, like how many crits are you doing with your radiating regeneration and stuff?
That's neat.
And
alright, I'm glad I saw that.
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention to everyone, because this is something that me and Cage talked about, but it wasn't like a public chat. Combat Prayer. Combat Prayer is a burst heal that a lot of people don't use as a burst heal. I was notorious for doing Combat Prayer, then putting down my illustrious heals, and then doing a full rotation and coming back to it. We want to try to keep our Combat Prayer uptime a lot better than it is. I think one time someone went through the trial, we were doing a VMAW, and they were seeing how long Berserk was up, and it was like never. So like, that's why, like with Zen's it's helped me a lot, because that's my only burst heal on my bar is Combat Prayer, so I am forced to use it a lot more than I was. So like, that's helped me realize that, hey, I need to be doing Combat Prayer more often, because A, Berserk, B, it's a burst heal, I need to use it as that. And like, you know, little things. It also helps with resolve and resistances and stuff.
You're gonna laugh at Tawny, but every time now with this clap heal, oh no, I'm gonna have Breath of Life on. So now that I have the clap heal on, that's why I use that Asylum Staff, is because now I'll always do in my rotation, if I'm doing a heal, it's always Combat Prayer followed up with clap heal, and then that will get someone far away.
Now, that was one thing I did kind of want to talk about, then I figured we weren't going to talk about. Like, we don't really need multiple burst heals on our bars. Like, and I'm
Right.
notorious. I will always have two. I will have Breath of Life, or Blood Sacrifice, or Mushrooms, and Combat Prayer. And that's why I don't have good Combat Prayer uptime, though, because I'm using the other ones usually. So, it's just kind of just, you can have both on, and it's good, because, like, Breath of Life is stronger than Combat Prayer. But we just kind of want to use it for the additional things that Combat Prayer has.
I don't even freaking use Breath of Life anymore.
Yeah, so like Breath of Life isn't on my bar except for Vast because I need it because Combat Prayer, of course, isn't something we use there.
I don't use Breath of Life. I use the clap one, and the only reason I follow it after Combat Prayer is because instead of costing almost 6k, it will heal everybody around me plus that one farther person away for,
yes,
what is it?
The Ritual
Almost
of Rebirth.
like
we need to stop calling it
Ritual
clap.
Rebirth.
Because
Yeah.
I think that's the right one, right? Yes, it's Ritual of Rebirth. Because the other one's Hasty Prayer, and we don't care about Hasty Prayer because it's dumb.
Right.
But yes, that was a burst heal that I loved before Breath of Life. Then I started using Breath of Life, and then I took Breath of Life off, and then kept Ritual of Rebirth, and then I've just swapped to Combat Prayer. But it's good for newer healers to probably have a safety net, but like that's like we were talking about earlier about Earthgore. Like, Earthgore is a good safety net, but it's not something we always need. So it's just something, you know, unless you're specifically asked for it, you probably don't want to even use it, unless you just need that little confidence.
I use it in, what is it? Sunspire, because the whole group's with me, and there's always someone, like an off-tank farther away.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll follow Combat Prayer up. So Combat Prayer will reach the main tank, and then I can follow that up with Ritual Rebirth just to get everybody plus the off tank. And then, yeah, but in like dungeons, I don't use it. I don't use it at all in
But
dungeons.
think of this instead. Instead of having Ritual of Rebirth, which is a huge magicka cost on you, that's a good burst heal, and it's a great area. But if you're just like wanting to do it for that little burst and a little bit, just use radiating regeneration. It's now what mutagen is. Because this can reach so far away, and that will, like, that little burst that you're sending out to the off tank, this could do that. And then they would have a little cute little hot. Like, I haven't slotted the clap in forever, but it's not bad, especially when you're learning. It's a great heal. That's how I learned BSS, was with that skill. But, like, this is a good skill too, and it goes super far. Like, this is what someone was healing me with when I was off tanking the other day. Look, I'm so far away.
Yeah, I'm looking at that, and it's ticking for either 28 or almost 5,000 every second.
Yeah, I was getting fits last night for like over 6,000 a tick when it was critting, and it was fantastic. But like, there's so much range on this, and you can pop it to get everybody. So like, all 12 people in the trial can have this going.
Right, yeah, especially if you do the radiating one.
Okay, guys, I better get going.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Alright.
Thank you. Looking forward to your video later.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We'll see ya.
Do you have any more questions, Scott, about Necros specifically? Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Alright. I'm gonna go eat food.
Go eat